Good evening, all. Thank you for joining for the today's session. We had a great session a few months back, and then the response was really huge and amazing. And a lot of informations due to COVID pandemic situation. There were a lot of changes happening in the college, admissions and other things. So many parents were like stressed out, and so many questions were being handled that time. And then even we had a great panel for the previous session. So following up, we thank UCEC, Mr. Vinny Gupta and Mr. Vaitish for joining today's session. And Karen, thank you. Welcome to this session. So moving forward, I just wanted to invite Juliet to take the session forward. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Meena. அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். Good evening, everyone. I am Juliet. I am the current 2020 VP admin for BATM. I would like to welcome the co-founder of UCEC, College Admissions Made Easy, Mr. Vinny and Mr. Vaitis, on behalf of BATM. Thanks, Mr. Vinny, and thanks, Mr. Vaitis, for being an BATM sponsor. Thanks, Mrs. Sundra, for coordinating the college planning for past 5 years. I would like to welcome our new 2021 VP admin, Mrs. Sundra. Welcome to the panelists. Dear Sundra, the Zoom is yours. Please take care of the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliet. As Juliet mentioned, we appreciate UCEC's support to the Tamil Mandram. And to all of the panelists, this is all of the attendees, welcome to the webinar and good afternoon, everyone. And this is going to be in English, considering the topic and how widely it is meant for everyone. So this full program is going to be in English. So Tamil Mandram is pleased to bring this college planning program, and we actually revived it in the last, 5 years ago, and I'm glad to be involved in coordinating this program for Tamil Mandram, and we have been receiving tremendous support and response from the community. And the very reason I got involved was to learn the details myself and to help others learn, other parents learn as well. Though I went to the university here, as most of you, I realized soon that it is very complex process, getting prepared for high school or college through going through high school. And if we didn't go through the high school here ourselves, we won't know what's involved in getting ready for college. And so that is the context. Tamil Mandram has been, providing this webinar as a awareness or educational program for the parents. So we have two key sessions today in college planning. The first one is related to college prep with a focus on the new and current shift to in the UCs or University of California system and some other universities as well. I suppose, UCEC folks will correct me in the first session if I'm not correct or if I'm wrong. And on how they consider or not actually considering the SAT, ACT, the key tests for college admissions process, a topic that high schoolers and parents are really trying furiously understand and in the process getting ready and to navigate to apply for colleges. And the second session is on college funding. I'm sure many of you are shocked, as I was, when you found out how much college education costs in the US. So the second session focuses on that. I know time is important, so I would like to introduce the UCEC team to start the first session. A quick note on UCEC is that their program specializes on supporting immigrant families, and they also provide customized one-on-one counseling to the students. And with that, I would like to introduce the panelists for UCEC. The first one is Vinny Gupta. As Juliet mentioned, that he's the co-founder of UCEC along with Vaitis Koladi, who's on the panel here as well. And Vinny Gupta is also president of UCEC, which is the first online academy in the US for college admissions. He is considered a thought leader in college admissions, and he has been featured in national media and is a frequent guest on other media outlets as well. And our other speaker we would like to welcome, new to UCEC, new to our college planning program, is Karen Rowe from UCEC. She's the director of college admissions program at the UCEC. She's also an external application reader for UC Davis. She has almost 20 years of experience in college admissions. So I would like to welcome both of you, the experts, on behalf of Tamil Mandram, and the floor is yours. Vinny, take it away.
Thank you, Sutantira. Thank you, Juliet, for your partnership and for the warm welcome. Thank you. So we've got the expert Karen. Actually, her last name is pronounced as Rao. So even though it's spelled as R-O-W-E. And we also have Vaitish Koladi, who is our co-founder. And Sutantira and Juliet, you obviously know him. Vaitish grew up in Tamil Nadu. So why don't we have him say a quick word or two to our guest today, and then I'll take it from there.
Thank you, Vinny. So I'm going to take the privilege of speaking in Tamil for like 2-3 minutes and then hand it over to Vinny. அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். முதற்கண் தற்போதைய மன்ற நிர்வாகிகளும் புதிதாக வர்ற மன்ற நிர்வாகிகளும் எல்லாருக்கும் வாழ்த்துக்கள். ரொம்ப சிறப்பா பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கீங்க. இது இன்னும் சிறப்பா மேலும் வளர்ந்துட்டு எங்களோட ஆதரவு எப்பவுமே இருக்கும். அது we both, Vinny and myself, we kind of committed for this. So நான் எப்போ சொல்றேன், இப்போ சொல்ல போறேன். ஆக்சுவலா இது வந்து இட்ஸ் பர்சனல் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ். இப்போ சுதந்திரா சொன்ன மாதிரி காலேஜ் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் வந்து நம்ம இந்தியா ஸ்டைல்ல அங்க படிச்ச அந்த ஞாபகத்துல இங்கேயும் பண்ணி நம்ம குழந்தைகளுக்கு ப்ரெஷர் பண்ணிட்டு we are also getting confused and it's just kind of நிறைய ராங் மெசேஜஸ் தான் கம்யூனிகேட் பண்றோம் குழந்தைங்களுக்கு. So we are doing more harm than good. So that's how I see it all the time. This is purely through our personal experience நான் வந்து சொல்றது. ஸோ அது வந்து இங்க இருக்கிற ஆடியன்ஸ் எல்லாத்துக்கும் திருப்பி என்னோட வேண்டுகோள் என்னன்னா, நம்ம ஒண்ணுமே பண்ணலன்னா கூட அவங்க நல்லா வருவாங்க. இஃப் வி ட்ரை டு சென்ட் அ ராங் மெசேஜ் அண்ட் நம்ம கம்யூனிட்டியில இருக்கிற ப்ராப்ளம் என்னன்னா, நம்ம பக்கத்து வீட்டுக்காரங்க சொன்னா அவங்க சொல்றாங்க, நிறைய இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் கேதர் பண்ணிட்டு வி ஜஸ்ட் ட்ரை டு டூ சம்திங் டோட்டலி டிஃப்ரெண்ட், ரைட்? அந்த இது பண்ணவே தேவையில்லை. ப்ரொஃபஷனல்ஸ் இருக்காங்க. ஸோ இட்ஸ் லைக் லிட்ரலி லைக் doing a self medication part. That's how we always compare with the college admission part, which we shouldn't do it, right? Especially இப்போ வந்து நிறைய சேஞ்சஸ் ஆயிருக்கு. ஸோ அதுக்கு these people, நான் வினி இந்த கம்பெனி 5 வருஷம் 6 வருஷம் முன்னாடி ஆரம்பிச்ச போது it's not an easy task, right? We have like 50+ professionals. They are highly trained and they day in and day out they work on this, right? They clearly know. So அப்படி இருக்கும் போது நம்மளா இது வந்து பண்ணி சம்பா வேற எங்கேயாவது போய் இது பண்றதுக்கு we work with them, then that's our core mission, right? நம்ம ஆரம்பிச்சதே அதுக்காக தான். அது வந்து ஸ்மூத்தா இருக்கணும், வீட்டுல ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் இருக்கக்கூடாது, குழந்தை they should just deserve to where they are supposed to get in, right? அந்த இதுல வரணுங்கிறதுக்காக தான் இது ஆரம்பிச்சது. நான் இப்போ நிறைய பர்சனலைஸ் பண்ணி இது வந்து அகாடமி மாடலுக்கே கொண்டு வந்தாச்சு. ஸோ இட் இஸ் நாட் லைக் ஜெனரிக் அட்வைஸ் ஃபார் ஆல் த கிட்ஸ் அந்த மாதிரி இல்லாம அவங்களுக்கு என்ன தேவையோ அதுக்கு தகுந்த அந்த இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங் எந்த ஏரியா இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட்டுக்கும் அந்த பேத்துல கொண்டு போற மாதிரி, which Vinny and Karen will also cover briefly on that side, right? So again, my request is work with the professionals and a team like us, and எங்களோட சப்போர்ட் ஆதரவு எப்பவுமே இருக்கு. நாங்க seriously all the time, Vinny and myself, we talk. If we are like a Bill Gates type thing, we would have done this as a free service totally, right? That's how we are passionate about. We want to help this community. So all the immigrant families, that's what we really want to do. And so whatever little help we could provide, that's what we are trying to do. என்னோட ஒரே குறிக்கோள் என்னன்னா, இங்க நார்த் அமெரிக்காவில் இருக்க எல்லா தமிழ் மன்றத்துக்கும் இந்த நியூஸ் சேர்ந்து we should just coordinate with them and partnership பண்ணிட்டு இன்னும் அடுத்த லெவலுக்கு இதை கொண்டு போறதுக்கு we are ready to do anything. Whatever support you need, we are ready to provide that. And that's our goal. So with that, without much delay, I just have Vinny to take to the main topic. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Vaitish, for for the UCEC overview. So I'm not going to add much to what Vaitish said. The main thing to understand or to keep in mind as you listen to Karen, who's our primary expert for today, and then I'll be supporting her for questions and answers. The primary thing to keep in mind is, especially if your first child or your older child is going to be going through the US high school journey and college admissions, that it is very different. So when we talk to you today, just keep in mind that we are keeping that perspective in mind as we offer our guidance. So without much further ado, let me invite our guest today, Karen Rao. As Sutanthira already introduced her, Karen leads our program for 11th and 12th graders. So we have created an academy structure, an online school for college admissions, where we have 3 programs. 8 to 10 is where we develop help the students develop their competitive profile. 11 to 12, Karen's team of experts help you through the actual application process. And then we have another program for transfers from community college. So Karen, like Sutanthira said, brings to the table a lot of experience. All our counselors in 11th and 12th grade work for her. So there's a lot of experience she's bringing to the table. So the topic for today is that the UCs, University of California, has now officially decided not to consider SAT or ACT scores at all. Karen can throw a little bit more light on that. Until a few weeks back, there was a little bit lack of clarity as to how they would treat SAT or ACT for current juniors that will be applying to colleges next year. Even for them, now UCs have made it clear that they will not consider SAT or ACT. And sometime in 24 or so, UC's official position is that they will transition to a standardized test that they will create themselves. But in the meantime, nobody knows. So the topic today, which Karen will enlighten us on, is now that UCs are not going to consider test scores, and most of us, I was like that too, most of us as families have spent a lot of money and time and energy on test scores, and suddenly that candy has been taken away from us. Now what do we do? So for that, let me invite Karen. Karen, you'll be able to share your screen as well, right? I believe you have slides.
I believe so. Go ahead and do that. First, I want to say thank you for having me today. I'm excited to present on this topic. I actually have been doing this now for 20 years, and I'm still as excited doing it now as I was in year one, even in 2020. And I am a UC reader, and today I've actually read 75 applications. So this is definitely on my mind today. So it's good that we're talking about that. So I'm going to share my screen. And if I could just get some head nods that you guys can see this. Yes. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to get started talking about junior year and the importance of junior year. So if we have juniors on the call, and even if we have younger students on the call, junior year is really important, and we're going to talk about why. So the 3 things you see on your screen: academics, activities, and testing. We're really going to talk a lot about that today, especially considering the lack of SAT and ACTs for the UC system. So at the bottom of this, you'll see academics, and that is the base, right? Your academics in junior year is the last full year that you are able to get your grades to where you want them to be for your GPA, so that a college will be able to look at your application and evaluate your high school performance. So in particular with UCs, since today we're focusing a lot on the UCs, or all on the UCs, the University of California focuses on 10th and 11th grade grades, and they actually focus a little more specifically on what's called A through G courses. So your academics are listed as A through G courses, which then that really means English, math, science, history, foreign language, and your arts class. So your academics is at the base. So yes, they do see what you took in the 9th grade, and they want to see that you're challenging yourself every year of high school. And they do definitely see your courses in senior year. But for the UCs in particular, grade 10 and 11 is what's going to be making up your GPA to be evaluated. Next, we can talk about your activities. Your activities in school, out of school, leadership experiences, volunteer experiences. If you perform any duties for your family, a lot of us have responsibilities at home as well. And we're going to talk way more in detail about these different types of activities as we continue on with the presentation. And then you'll see testing, and you'll see a couple asterisks next to it. Kind of goes along with the theme of 2020, having asterisks next to it. Testing this year is going to be different. For the UC system in particular, as Vinny stated, and BK stated, the SATs and ACTs are not used in the evaluation process of an application. So even if you accidentally send them to the UC system, I can absolutely tell you 100% certain that they will not be seen. I can attest to that from what I've read today. They're actually blocked, so you can't even see them even if you did send them. However, there is some other testing that is included in the review of an application, and I'm gonna leave that out there as a teaser to tell you a little bit more about that on another slide. There we go. So unless you've been hiding under a rock, which might be maybe a good thing for 2020, these are the headlines that have been out there. The University of California system no longer considers SAT, ACT results and admissions judges rule. The coronavirus may change college admissions forever. Some dramatic statements being made. And it actually is pretty dramatic because for almost eternity, GPA and test scores, that has been drilled into everyone's head. That's the thing that gets you into college, right? Your test scores and your GPA. And now when we're taking the SAT and the ACTs out of that equation, it leaves families pretty nervous and not sure of what is going to help a student get into the school that they're applying to. So I figured I would just show this slide in case you haven't seen any of this news that's been out there. So basically what's happened is that when you remove standardized testing, these two words have become pretty popular out there in the college admissions world, test optional and test blind. And I figured it would be helpful for you to see the differences between the two. So the UC system is test blind. So that means the test scores are not used in the admissions process. But I also wanted to include the word test optional because there are many schools, actually 2/3 of the schools that are out there in the US now for this year are test optional. And basically what that means is that it's left up to a student whether to send an SAT or an ACT to a college or university. And it means that a student can be just as competitive with a test score as without a test score. So that means a student isn't penalized for not taking an SAT or an ACT. And this year, in the year of COVID-19, there were so many seniors this year that applied to college without even having the opportunity to sit for a standardized test because of the circumstances we were in. So again, the UCs are test blind for SATs and ACTs. And I did want to mention that we are going to talk about what tests the UC system will use. So in thinking about what the UC system reviews, they do what's called a holistic review. And I believe it was in 2001, the UC system in general adopted what's called a comprehensive review. And what that means is that there were 14 factors that the admissions people and the staff at the UCs decided was going to be important in evaluating an applicant holistically, looking at the entire student. And these 4 things on your screen that you can see are kind of like buckets that all these 14 qualifiers fit into. Grades and rigor, extracurricular activities, awards, writing PIQs, and PIQ stands for personal insight question, and testing. Again, with some asterisks that are listed. So let's talk about your grades and the rigor. A question I get often asked is, students are looking at their high school compared to other high schools. Their high school maybe only offers I don't know, 3 or 4 AP classes where their friend is at another high school and they offer 23 or 24 AP classes. And this student is so concerned because they're worried that they might not be as competitive for admissions. And that's actually not true. Your grades are all relative for where you go to school. So at your high school, what is the most rigorous thing that you can take over the course of 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th? And again, focusing on 10th and 11th grade for your GPA. So what opportunities did you have to challenge yourself? Did you have AP courses? Did you have an IB program? Did you have honors classes? So when we're actually looking at your application, we know as an application reader if your school has these courses. We know how many, and we know if you don't have any. So don't ever feel like you have to, you're not competing against someone else from another high school. You're competing amongst the students in your high school. Extracurricular activities and awards. So extracurriculars, the things that you probably already know, right? All the sports that are at your school, yearbook, newspaper, robotics club, all the things that your school offers. Are you taking advantage of what's there? How often have you been involved in these things? It's actually, the UC application is actually going to ask you how many times per week and how many weeks per year you participate in this event. So, or whatever the club is that you're doing. So are you overly involved? Are you doing things multiple times a week, or is it just something you kind of dabble in? And we'll talk a little bit about the importance of that in a little bit. The activities you participate in, maybe it's outside of school. Maybe you have a job. I think sometimes people underestimate the importance of having a job when you're in high school. That is absolutely a noble thing to do. And it's a great thing, I think, for teenagers to have that experience in the working world. Maybe you have activities in your church organization or even in your community, or maybe you have responsibilities at home as well. So activities can kind of go pretty wide as far as the different things you can be doing. And then the awards that your school has nominated you for, awards you've received possibly from any kind of testing or GPA awards at your school, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, any of those awards that you've achieved. Writing and PIQs. We will talk in detail about this in a little bit, but that is a huge part of the application process. I can actually tell you that this year, reading applications this year is very different. And the reason it's different is the first thing I'm looking at when I'm looking at the UC application are the personal insight questions, are the essays. And so when I'm reading an application, I'm getting an image of what a student is like reading these essays first before I see their academics. And that is different than in the past. In the past, actually, the academics and the test scores were first. So that kind of tells you kind of the shift that the UCs are taking. And then lastly, testing. So those two little asterisks. So now I'm going to share with you what the UCs are looking for in regards to testing. They're actually looking at AP scores. If you do take an AP class in high school, it is highly, highly encouraged you take that exam to show a 3, 4, or a 5, which are passing scores on an AP. They also are looking at subject tests. So yes, we have said SATs and ACTs are no longer being used. However, they are going to still look at subject tests because it focuses particularly on whatever that subject is you really want to emphasize your knowledge in. So if you're looking at engineering or computer science, they want to see that you took the Math 2 subject test. They want to see that, 700, 800 score if you're able to score that, just to show the emphasis and your strength in that area. So how competitive is it? The word is very, very competitive. You'll see, I put this up not to scare people, but to kind of make you more knowledgeable of how competitive the UC system is. It's a great state university system. I'm sure people across the country would love to have their students attend the UC system, and we're lucky enough to have it in our state. So you'll see, yes, pretty much every UC is looking at students that have A's and B's pretty much. UCLA is still the most competitive to get into. And I'm not going to say too much more about the slide. It's pretty self-explanatory, but the numbers kind of speak for themselves as far as how competitive it really has gotten in the UC system. All right, so I've shared some things about what is important. So if you're on this call and you're watching these slides and you're saying, oh my gosh, what should I be thinking about now if I'm interested in applying to the UC system? So let's talk a little bit about activities. So the things that we've listed here, thinking outside the box, personal development, leadership, community-minded, and quality over quantity. I can't emphasize all of these things enough. So thinking outside the box. So COVID hit. everybody, this is such a downer. Oh my gosh, all my activities just stopped. So what kind of things can you do as an activity that don't involve, person-to-person contact, things you can do 6 feet apart? What can you do to learn something on your own in the safety of your home? You can learn a new language. You can start a YouTube channel. You can start a blog. You can play a new instrument. You can do things that maybe you didn't have time to do when you were in school all day. So thinking outside the box kind of is this 2020, and is how we've shifted our thinking about how you can get involved in things. Leadership and commitment. So the pre-2020, 2020 leadership, the easy example is I was the president of a club. I was the vice president of the club. That was showing your commitment to the club. But maybe now that you're not in school as much, maybe those commitments shifted a little bit to more what's going on inside your home. So maybe you have a 6-year-old sibling that you have to teach math to, or help get his or her Zoom set up for their in-school sessions. Or maybe your parents are both working and you and your siblings are at home doing online school. And so it's kind of your job to take over that parent role. All of these things are activities that you're doing. So I'm actually relaying specific examples of what I actually read today in some applications. Do things that are community minded. In this world we're in right now, I think I cannot stress enough how important it is to take care of each other and to show some kindness. I think it goes a really long way in an application where it's not just solely focused on yourself. I mean, obviously you do want to present your best self, but it is nice to actually see students that are concerned about people in their community, perhaps working at a senior center or something in the religious community. Or working with, I actually read an application where the student was working with their dance company and doing online help for actually the students that were younger kids that were in there, and obviously shifted due to 2020. And quality over quantity. So when you're looking at a UC application, for example, it'll give you numerous, 20 activities to list. We don't want to see you involved in 20 different activities and doing them for 1 hour a year or 1 hour a week even. We would love to see 3 to 4 or 5 activities that you've really invested your time in. So think about going really deep into certain activities and not necessarily spreading yourself super thin over your activities. Show academic rigor. So we talked a little bit about this in the beginning, and as well as your subject tests and AP exams. But take a look at the courses that you have at your high school. What things can you challenge yourself with? Are you taking the highest level math and science and English courses that are available, or history or foreign language? Letting yourself really be challenged. Subject tests and AP exams show through standardized testing that you can excel on these specific subjects. And perhaps maybe your school, you've maxed out of math classes, for example. Why don't you take the course that comes after BC Calculus and take a look at a community college? Perhaps you might be interested in studying, I don't know, business, and your school doesn't have any business courses. Maybe look at a community college for taking an intro to business class. These are all ways that you can show that you're going above and beyond than what your high school is just offering, and you're showing this side of yourself that's really challenging and looking at developing yourself a little bit more on the academic side. And then developing your writing skills. I can't stress this section enough, because I think sometimes families are and students are so worried about the academic side that they forget a big part of this process is actually elaborating on who you are through your writing. So remember, the UCs do not have letters of recommendation. So when someone is evaluating an application, they aren't going to see what someone else is saying about you. You have to say what you want them to know about you. So through the UC PIQs and PIQs, personal insight questions, they're extremely important. And as I just said earlier, the applications I'm actually physically reading right now, the first thing I read are the PIQs. Cannot stress enough how much detail you can put, because the word count is only 350 words. So that's pretty much a big paragraph, and that's pretty much about it. You actually will have 8 choices and you choose 4 of those to write about. So I like to tell students that I work with, think about it as an interview. The UC system is sitting on one side of the table, you're sitting on the other side of the table. What are the 4 things that you want to share in this interview that are the most important things about you? What kind of things are so important for them to evaluate about who you are as a person? And what impact did the situation have on you or others around you? So the things that you're going to write about kind of range from your leadership experience, subject material that you're really strong in, your creativity, a talent or skill that you have. These things are just different ways you can show different sides of yourself, so that you are more than just the academic side. I can't stress enough, the writing piece is really important, especially this year when SATs and ACTs are not going to be in the picture. I think I skipped over one, sorry about that. All right, final thoughts. What can you do now? I think pretty much the first thing I do with juniors when I'm working with juniors is to have them actually take a step back and zoom out and look at their resume. So holistically reviewing your resume means where can you look at your entire resume and see what areas are you weaker in? Do you have more in-school activities? Do you have fewer leadership experiences? Do you have fewer volunteer service experiences? Where can you improve? Because remember, junior year is obviously the biggest time for you to make that impact and almost like leave your mark at your school. So I think that's usually the first thing I would say, especially if you're a junior. If you're younger, you can think about developing different areas of your resume. Focus on your academics. That's pretty self-explanatory. The A through G courses in grades 10 and 11 in particular for the UC system is what's going to be used to evaluate your application. Ninth grade is your building block basically to get you ready for what's going to count for the UC system. And then obviously when you're a senior, you want to continue those strong courses as well, because we will see those classes in your senior year as well. Review requirements. What will they require for admissions? So if you are a student, for example, who's not listening to this webinar, and you are studying for those SATs, studying, and then next year you apply and you realize, oh my gosh, the UCs aren't even taking the SATs. I just spent all this time studying for the SAT and it's not even going to count. So understanding the requirements for the admissions process is obviously something that's really important, as well as what kind of subjects you should be taking in high school to prepare for a certain major, for example. So reviewing those requirements is really important. And then lastly, I'd say building a balanced college list is really important to consider as well. We're talking today solely about the UCs, but perhaps now that you're hearing all of this, maybe you're thinking, maybe I should add some other colleges into my list that are outside of the UC system or the CSU system, for example. And that's something where you could work with a college counselor in order to help build a balanced college list, which means you have schools possibly in California, outside of California, private schools, public schools around the country to better your chances of getting acceptances. All right, so I think at that point, I think I will stop sharing my screen because I believe we're going to head into some questions, and I believe everyone can answer or put questions in the Q&A box. And I think Vinny and I are going to tackle those together, I believe. And I think we have one. Vinny, do you want to say something real quick?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll cover this more, Karen, in the questions and answer session, and I hope that we'll get a vigorous list of questions that we can respond. But the main message that so you could be right now in our audience, you could be a family of a junior or younger grades, right? Karen talked a lot about what can you do if you are a junior, but even if you're a younger grade, I think that the big message that we'd like to leave behind is that, and there are different webinars that we have on this topic, especially on the topic of what can younger students in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, what can they do? With this new change that we are talking about today, which is that UCs will not consider SAT and ACT scores, I believe that UCs, especially the more higher ranked ones, are going to behave now more and more like the top tier private colleges, like a Stanford or an Ivy League. What do I mean by that? That when Karen talked about that UCs have 14 factors that they consider, GPA is one of them, but they're also looking at the totality of what the student brings to the table, even things like work ethic, or are you a natural learner? Do you study because you enjoy learning, or do you do it because of grades or because your parents are on your case? So the big message here is that if UCs are going to be behaving like a Stanford or similar colleges, it's a huge challenge for us as parents and students. What does that mean? Not only do we need to continue to be good at academics, we need to learn a completely new skill, especially if you are an immigrant parent like me or like Vaitish. Coming from India, there was no real focus in our society or in our schools on developing all of these things that now Karen, as an admissions officer at UCs, are looking for. As parents, we don't think about those. So I would urge you, I would challenge you in a good way that take the time to think differently about what UCs and private colleges are looking for, because if we as parents don't think differently and if we don't guide the student differently, in most cases, I'm sorry to say that there would be disappointments when the college results start coming in March of the senior year. So please take that message very seriously. But with that, let's start taking questions.
All right, the first one, I did hit on this in the webinar, but I will repeat this. How is the weighted GPA calculated? So for the UC system, as I mentioned, grade 10 and 11 courses, and those are in A through G, which A through G, if you go to the UC, if you just actually Google A through G courses UCs, it'll actually go into detail of what those all are, but the subjects are English, math, science, history, foreign language, and an arts class. All of the high schools submit their A through G courses to the UC system for approval. And if the weighted comes into factor when it's an honors or an AP level course, the student actually gets like a bump in a score, which is tabulated then in your GPA. The next one is SAT, ACT not counted outside of California colleges. So there is a website you can actually go to called fairtest.org, F-A-I-R test.org, and you'll see all of the colleges that do not use, or it's optional to use SATs or ACTs for admissions. So the answer is yes. There are a lot of colleges around, I mean, as in thousands of colleges, if you were to go to that website, that you would see. I believe right now they said 2/3 of the colleges in the US are test optional. So that means they're not included in the part of the admissions process. So I can't really go into detail of what all of those ones are, but that I would direct you to the fairtest.org website for you to actually see a list of those.
Yeah, and Ken, just to add to that, the trend, we believe at UC-EZ, the trend is very clear that colleges are going away from these SAT and ACT scores. The political winds are against them as well. So don't cling on to these tests. Try to move on, right? You would still, if you are looking to apply to UCs, if you're looking to apply to other than UCs, for now, definitely you should be taking those tests. But the main thing is to change the mindset in terms of how much of energy is a student and his or her family going to spend on these tests. As they say, right, that this train has left the station. Don't cling on to it.
It's a good way to put it, Vinny. The next question, when is the best time to start looking into college and starting applications? Early, that's the best time. Start early. Probably the biggest mistake families make and students make is start thinking about colleges when they're seniors. Technically, 9th grade and 10th grade is a great time to actually start really digging into the whole college process and understanding what is ahead of you. The best thing to think about, the ways to think about this process is the more prepared you are, the better experience you're going to have going through this. So there won't be any surprises at the end of this. So when is the best time? I would say early on in the high school experience. And starting on application. So every year, the application process cycle starts over again in August. So you couldn't get a jump start on something until technically into the month of August when you're a senior in high school. And as far as deadlines go, they vary. So one of the earliest deadlines that I know of, I think is in the country, is UNC Chapel Hill on October 15th. It used to be Georgia Tech, but they moved that this year. November 1, November 15th, November 30th, all the way through January to January 15th is usually the cycle of deadlines. And then, so we are closing in on the end of the seniors applying to college and then getting ready to start the process all over again for those students that are juniors. And the next question, what is the difference between unweighted and weighted GPAs? And so that has to do with if your school offers honors and AP classes. So if your school doesn't, you're not going to be penalized. Like I said, in regard to the UC system, we evaluate your applications in context of your high school. So you're not compared to another high school, you're compared to what else students are taking in your high school. So if you don't have any honors or AP classes, you still have an opportunity to get into the UC system. So that should hopefully set your mind at ease a little bit. But the biggest difference between unweighted and weighted is the extra point that you would receive on your actual grade that you get. An A in an AP or an honors class is weighted more heavily than just a regular class. It's not honors or AP. Does subject test, is SAT subject for a specific field? So yes, subject tests are, I believe there's like 30 plus SAT subject tests that you can take. The majority of those are in languages, but English, history, your math, you could take a chemistry subject test, a physics subject test, a history subject test, Spanish, French. There's a whole bunch of foreign languages that you can take. And basically the reason why you want to take those is that you want to show emphasis and strength in a particular subject area. For students going into the STEM area, math and science, you obviously want to be taking subject tests in those areas to show expertise. Let's see. What are some specific things that colleges look for, as in how many hours of community service, are there specific medals they like, etc.? There is not one answer. So the things they like it all. They definitely want to get to know who the student is. So I would say, as far as hours of community service, what they're looking at is not that you've just done 1 hour of doing some kind of community service a year. Maybe they want, or maybe they don't. And the other example I can give you is that we don't want to see that you did 10 different community service activities, but only did like a half hour each of all of them. We would much rather see you do 1 or 2 things and do a lot of it, really get invested in working with your Humane Society and helping with blood drives in more so than just doing it once a year. So there isn't one, hourly number I can give you, but I'm just saying that it's going to show that you have an invested interest in something if you do it more than once. And do it over a period of time. And as far as specific medals, there isn't one in particular, but getting recognized for something is obviously a great achievement, and you want to make sure that the UCs know about that. If something that you've interviewed for and you received, or if it's something where you've earned a certain amount of hours doing something and you received an award, kind of like an Eagle Scout award, which are Boy Scouts, which means you've gotten to the highest level for something.
Karen, if I can just add to it by sharing a couple of slides, I can share those. This question about what colleges look for is a very, very important question. Let me actually spend 2 or 3 minutes on sharing a couple of slides to put all of this stuff together. Karen, please let me know if you already covered these slides. So when a lot of the questions that we are getting today, these pertain to what is called formula-based admissions that you see on your screen. This is, and again, please don't take my comments in any disrespectful manner. As Vaitish and I said before, we started UC Easy to help the fellow immigrant community. So I'm just going to be talking straight. So when a lot of the questions that are coming in today, they're still coming from the mindset of what we call a formula-based admissions. What you see on your screen, GPA is important, SAT and ACT scores, plus which courses have I taken, the APs and that kind of stuff. But what is important to realize is that the UCs go beyond this, and my next slide will show you what do UCs and similar people look for. Formula-based admissions are like California State University, say San Jose State University, or San Francisco State, or Cal Poly, California Polytechnic, San Luis Obispo. These are the people that are looking for these basic things in terms of college admissions. Now, where we would like you to start thinking, that is what Karen and I, we are trying to urge you to think differently, is start thinking about holistic admissions. Holistic mean all of it. So do you see that? What the formula-based colleges were looking at, this is the green circle. If our thinking, if all our energy stays here, then we miss all the yellow. But what the world is moving towards, especially if this SAT, ACT, the value is going to go down, is that this yellow is what we need to prepare our students for. If the students stay focused here, then you still have these formula-based admissions like California State Universities or private colleges where the chances of getting in is much higher. These are not really the strong brand names, but there are thousands of private colleges in US, just like there were in India, where as long as you have money, you would be able to get in. But if you're looking at the UCs and competitive private colleges, the mindset has to change to the yellow. So the parent that asked that question, what do colleges look for? They obviously look for all of this. Now, as we said, that SAT and ACT value is going down. For UCs, it's gone away completely. For others, they're at different stages. The key is to look for, to develop all of these things. Now, some of your questions are in this extracurriculars, but there are a lot of these other things. Essays, like Karen said, never been more important. And that's a skill that you simply cannot develop in 12th grade. So we recommend that you start developing essay writing skills as early as 8th grade, because that skill takes multiple years to develop. So I'm going to pause here and let Karen come back to questions.
All right. There was a question about the PSAT. So this year, most high schools did not offer the PSAT. There's actually one more being offered in January, January 26th. And the PSATs are nationally set dates. So that is something that is, I guess, pay attention to your high school if they end up wanting to offer it. There is an alternative to actually taking the PSAT in person, and you can actually connect with your school counselor to ask about that, because there is a couple of things that you need to submit in order to get qualified for the National Merit Scholarship, which is the reason why a lot of juniors want to take a practice SAT in junior year. And I'll just go back and explain that a little bit more. The National Merit Scholarship Corporation awards scholarship money to students that have the top 1% PSAT score in their state. So it's extremely competitive. It is a great recognition to get. This year, that is not being emphasized hardly at all, because hardly any high schools are even offering the PSAT. So it's not something to worry about. If I were to guess, I would probably say very, very few students are even going to take the PSAT this year. So hopefully that answers your question. Do we have time to keep going on the questions, Vinny?
Yeah, maybe take one, and then I can briefly, there are some questions here about how to work with UC Easy. Mm-hmm. Let me take those if that's, but we'll ask Sutantira as to how to do that.
Yeah, I would like to, like you to answer the other questions, because anyway, you have a few slides, I assume, about UCEC, how people can reach you. So if you could answer other questions, that'll be great.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, Karen, please keep going for another few minutes.
Okay. What do colleges look in for students who are choosing engineering? So students who are looking for engineering, math and science courses are huge. That's obviously the first thing that you need to consider is looking at your overall transcript. what math and science courses have you taken? How far in math have you gotten? I'm hoping if you're in engineering, you've gotten at least to BC calculus, if not beyond calculus, to be the most competitive. For the sciences, you're taking any AP courses that your school has in the sciences. If your school doesn't have that high level course in science or math, maybe consider looking at a community college to take an advanced level math and science course. Does your school offer a robotics team? If you do, your school does have a robotics team, definitely you should be involved in that if you're thinking about engineering or any other activities that is going to be involved engineering, math, science based skills. They also look at what have you done outside of just what your school offers as far as engineering goes. So maybe it's getting involved in some kind of internship program or taking some kind of programming over the summer that a college that offers engineering actually has. So you could do that as a high school student. Let's see. How much advantage does a student have for being an athlete or involved in any sports in the admissions process? I'm kind of giggling on that because of what happened, the big scandal that happened earlier this year when all of these families were bribing admissions folks to try to get their students in, and many of them were athletes, or they thought they were athletes. They were, but having an athletic advantage isn't going to solely be the factor to get your student into college. Yes, it would be nice that your 7 foot tall senior is being recruited for the basketball team and the coach wants them in the school. But that also means that that 7 foot athlete needs to have the academics to back it up. So admissions is not going to be waiving the other factors, the academics, the activities, just because the student is an athlete. Let's see.
Yeah, if you can just take one more, Karen, and then I can share some UCZ slides.
Is 3.8 weighted or unweighted in your slide? So the slides that I showed with the GPA are actually from the weighted scale for the UCs.
All right, so keep those questions coming, please. Let me share a few slides about UC Easy for those of you that might actually be feeling, oh my gosh, this process is so complicated and I feel alone. I talk to my neighbor, they're equally uninformed. What do I do? So let me just quickly talk about UC Easy and then we'll take a few questions until Sutantira says we're out of time. Give me a second, please. Karen, do you want to take one more question while I bring up my slides?
How about this question? Maybe many are asking for the SAT Act has gone away permanently all over America. Probably that could be a good question for everyone's knowledge.
Yeah, I will go ahead and tackle that. So the answer is probably no. There is nothing that, until you actually see something in writing for certain, I would definitely feel absolutely confident saying that the importance of SATs and ACTs across the country is definitely diminishing. It is getting less and less because the other factors, because basically 2020 brought to light that all of these students are still just as qualified, even without an SAT or ACT. And it wasn't the students' fault that they couldn't take it because of COVID. So it's definitely making colleges shift their thinking of what's really important to accept a student into college. And it's kind of going away from, or it is going away from SATs and ACTs.
Yep, I mean, Karen, we knew this, right? That that even before COVID, almost 1/3 of US colleges had become optional on SAT and ACT scores. So the trend had started even prior to COVID. All right, so just to talk a little bit about how can UC Easy help, I'll just keep this high level. So ultimately, what is our goal as families? Our goal is that this college admissions is unfortunately a competitive process. Not everybody gets in. That's just hard reality. So how does one get ahead of competition? So where is the help coming for students from immigrant families like ours, where the parents themselves are not familiar with high school journey or admissions to four-year colleges? Is the help coming from our public high schools, where the student to counselor ratio to a counselor like Karen, for example, in the Bay Area, California Bay Area, even at the reputed public high schools, say Monta Vista in Cupertino or Palo Alto, the typical student to counselor ratio is 600 to 1, which makes personalized help completely impossible. Compare that to competition, say a Harker or a Menlo schools or several other elite private high schools across the country where the tuition fee is, say, $50,000 a year. There, the student to counselor ratio is 50 to 1. So that is the competitive disadvantage that our students are dealing with if they are going to a public high school. In a UC Easy Academy, our student to counselor ratio, say for counselors on Karen's team, it's generally 12 to 15 to 1, but never ever exceeds 20. So how do we help? To students in grades 8 till 12, and then college transfer, we offer highly personalized guidance, personalized, individualized guidance through counselors like Karen and almost 60 other experts like that we have on our team. We have great reviews. Just do a simple search on Google, UC Easy one-word reviews. So this is where I'd like you to please pay a little bit of attention to this slide, because as Sutantira might know, she knows us for the last 5 years. We've come a long way in terms of figuring out what is the right framework or the right programs that are needed to support children from our community. So we have come up with a very unique model that no one else in the country has, where we have an 8th to 10th program where we help the students develop that competitive profile that that Karen and we've been talking about. 11th to 12th grade, it is Karen's program where we help you with the actual college applications process. But in addition, we offer essay writing program from 8th till 11th grade, where we offer a highly intense essay writing program to develop essay writing skills. We also have programs from 8th till 11th grade for students that aspire to specific majors. We have highly dedicated and focused programs for computer science, for pre-med, for engineering, for those three, which are the most common programs that our community asks for. So we have created dedicated programs for all of that. In addition to counseling, we also offer group classes on lots of topics that are needed for the students to develop, especially become well-rounded. We also have other experts like a family success coach. What does that mean? A student struggling with motivation, a student feeling totally stressed and simply cannot move forward. We also, through a partnership, we also offer academic tutoring and test prep. These we don't do directly, but within all of this, we believe that you send your kid to a public high school, leave the rest to UC Easy. This is just a snapshot of our team. We have a team of bigger than 60. These are college admission experts like Karen, school counselors, and experts in different careers like Chris Sharp here. He is an ex-admissions director from Carnegie Mellon, and he is the lead for our computer science program. Just so the programs here for high schoolers, 8 to 9th or 8 to 10th grade program. Here we help families with, how do I navigate the high school journey? As a parent, I never went to high school here. With COVID, my school is virtual. After school activities are gone. It's not about college admissions. You see, Easy, I simply need help to navigate high school. So we have programs for that. I want to develop a competitive profile for college admissions early. That is second here. And in 11th and 12th, we help with the actual applications process. As I mentioned before, we offer essay writing services. 8 to 11th grade, develop skills over multiple years on how to write essays. And in grade 12, do the actual review of essays. We also have a program which, again, Sutantira might know this. This is a relatively new program. Again, we are learning constantly and developing new programs. For those of you that really, really, really care for the top 20 colleges in the country and the top 10 programs for computer science, engineering, and pre-med. We have created new programs, but these are by invitation only. Not everybody is in. You will apply to us and we will make a call whether you qualify. Why? Because these are such competitive programs. We only want to take students that have a good shot at finally making it to these unique or to these hyper competitive colleges and programs. This is just a quick snapshot of our acceptances from last year. So as you see here, our students got into 13 colleges in the top 25 nationwide, includes a lot of UCs, but also Cornell, Stanford, and in 18 colleges in the top 25 engineering programs nationally. How do you work with us? Simply send an email to info@uceasy.com. That's UCeasy with a Z, and we will schedule a completely free meeting with you. So with that, Sutantira, do we have time for a few more questions?
There is one or two, I mean, that's not related to UCEC, or I think probably you guys have answered, it just disappeared. But anything related to UCEC, and you just saw the info@ucec.com, I mean, I'm just addressing the attendees here. Please reach out to them directly. And, you know, San Francisco Bay Area, Tamil Mandram is bringing this as an informational session for you. And UCEC has come on board to support that. But if you have specific questions about their program, please reach out to them directly. And you have all the information that they showed on their slides. So I think we have come to the end in that sense, Winnie. I would really, I mean, I would like to appreciate you and Karen for your presentation. Wonderful job, Karen, and thank you for joining us. Yes, we have had other counselors from UCEC before. And thanks for Vaitis also joining and saying a few words. So, and looking forward to working with you next year as well. And have a safe and peaceful holiday time.
Thank you so much, Sutantira. Thank you, Juliet, for having us over.
Thank you,
and
Mr.
thank you for your
Vinny.
partnership.
Thank you, Juliet. Thank you, Meena.
For being an SBATM sponsor. Thank you, Vaitis.
Bye.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
With that, we are transitioning to session 2. Albert, are you here? Oh, wonderful. Wonderful to see Albert is here. Juliet, should I go ahead or you are saying
Yeah,
something?
you can go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. And to the attendees, we hope that you have had most of your questions, if not all, answered, and appreciate you voicing your raising all the questions. And the second session now is equally important. As I mentioned, that this is on college funding, and this focuses on helping us understand the college funding options and strategies to reduce the cost of attendance, which is really important. And the educational cost, especially, you know, undergrad is pretty enormous. And I was, as I mentioned in the beginning, I was really shocked to learn the number. And Albert will be talking a lot about it. And it is increasing every year gradually. So this is an equally important topic. And so just to say a few words about Albert Law, he is actually he is a chemical engineer by education. So surprisingly, but he has been in the insurance and investment industry for 25 plus years. He's a financial advisor with Transamerica that has businesses across the country. And he likes to educate and help his customers with a holistic approach to save for retirement, college education, protections for families, and long-term care, and reduce taxes. He has 2 teenage daughters that are currently in college. So this topic is personally relevant for him. And as for Albert, and in terms of our relationship with the Bay Area, Tamil Mandram, the first year when I coordinated, he was brought on by other people, and the way he really explained the topic it's really a dry topic actually. And he made it really connecting and very relevant to the attendees, and it was really well received. And he came again once more. So this year, when we were looking at the fall session, I was thinking it will be very relevant when we talk about the UCs and the test shifting, the focus on test going away, and it will be very relevant given the current circumstances and then the financial crisis. Also, to talk about college funding, and he readily agreed. So thank you, Albert, for joining us. And I will turn it over to you and take it away.
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you, Saravana, for inviting us. Thank you, for your organization for inviting me back. It's always interesting. My goal is to give back to the community. Does not matter which community it is, as long as they need the education. So the purpose of this, my talk, is not to elicit any or solicit any businesses. But more so is to give you guys educational information, a platform, somebody you can go to in terms of how to navigate this. Just like Vinny Gupta speak about, to navigate in the school from the high school, especially for immigrant like me, we have no experience about the high school system here. It is mind-boggling. Even though I'm educated at the collegiate level, but I have no clue about the high school going to college. So as a foreign student, I go through is by trial and error, but I was able to get through even that situation. But we are talking about 30 plus years ago. The landscape is totally different from today's. It is highly more competitive than what we have right now. Before it was a lot easier, but today is very competitive. And because of the economy, everything has shifted. So we have to have a different way of approaching. So today my approach is going to be a bit different than what I've shared before. It's going to be a high level, very practical. I'm going to connect the dots for you so you understand between what UC Easy is talking about, the college planner. They fulfill that to help you as a family how to navigate that from the admission perspective. For me, I'm coming from the more of the financial perspective and from the tax perspective. In strategy, if you're a business owner, there are more options. But if you're on a W-2 income, then you are more limited in your options. That's all it is. But then we need to find out what is possible. So let me begin, and I'll leave some time enough for you to ask any question if you have. Maybe I do such a good job, I answer all your questions, so you don't have a chance to ask me. That will be incredible. But maybe I'm not clear. I'll see what happens. So, but I'm going to be interactive. Is I want you to, on your chat line or Q&A, I want you to, if I ask a question, if you can participate with me, that would be great. Because that way, the best thing for you as a parent is to participate in my presentation, because it's not going to be a long drawn out collegiate style of downloading the information, but I am here to provoke you with new ideas, the ideas that can work for you. So this is meant for all levels of, for all admission, whatever you want, it doesn't matter. I am surprised because I saw the top engineering school, University of Wisconsin-Madison is a top engineering school. I said, oh my goodness, well, my all former college is on the top engineering. So now it's very tough to get in. So let me share, do I have permission to share right now?
Yes.
You should be.
Okay, let me do this right now. All right. So again, my topic today is college funding, and my name again is Albert Law, and my company name is called Dream Builder Financial Services. So I just want to make sure you're clear. Is our business, we go through Transamerica. So my business name is, we call Dream Builder Financial Services, and so we are part of the Transamerica. So okay, just let you know. So before I start about what I'm going to present, I'll give you a bit of a background who we are, about us. This is my website, Dream Builder Financial. I'll give you the website address later on. So you can see my main office is in Santa Clara. I have satellite office in Fremont, San Francisco, and Pleasanton area. So and for our state, I have another big office in the Texas area. And again, satellite offices in other states like Illinois, Kentucky, and Indiana, and even Pennsylvania. So I just want to let you know. So my operation is across the nation. But with Zoom, we can handle any state that you might be in, all right? So our mission, what do we do? Our mission is to help every family get a financial education, protection, and independence they need to pursue their dreams for tomorrow. So since 2001, we have helped over 4.2 million families. And our business expanding. We have about 44,000 agents across the nation between US and Canada. So what we do, so one of the things is other than college funding, as you can see over here, is we do other things like retirement strategies, insurance protection, legacy, long-term care, and business solutions, all right? So this can be found on our website. So what is the objective today? Number one is understanding what is the cost of attending colleges. Number two, factors to consider for college funding. Number three, options for saving for college. Number four, what are the tax implications? So a lot of times this may be overlooked, but I want to make sure you know what is the cost of each solution that you choose for. And then finally, I want to talk about business owner option is because sometimes you may not have the time to save for the college, but what are the possible business owner option? So the first thing first is probably the Vinay already talked to you is you go to any public colleges, you are required to fill out a FAFSA. There's a free application for federal student aid. So this is utilized by most colleges to estimate what? The cost of attendance, and then your estimated family contribution, and then you find out how much is your need-based aid. Make sense? So what is the relationship? So cost of attendance minus your estimated family contribution, that will determine your needs-based aid. Make sense? And then your cost of attendance is a matter of what? The tuition fees includes the room board, cost of books and supplies, transportation, loan fees, reasonable cost for eligible student abroad programs. So that is what COA is all about. And then EFC, the estimated family contribution. So this is an index number that you have a formula to calculate. It constitutes the income and certain asset base, okay? And then the income will include the tax and the untaxed. So the untaxed is basically how much did you contribute to your 401k, and that is what we call the untaxed part of it right there, all right? So what constitutes certain assets is included in the FAFSA. So I took a snapshot of this in the FAFSA application. You can look at this and you can Google this document. As you can see, the investment includes what? The real estate that is not your primary residence, but is your real estate in your investment, right? Trust fund, UGMA. So this is a custodian, UGMA, UTMA, a custodian account, your cash account, your mutual fund stock, that is all not in the retirement plan. 529 Coverdale savings account are also included. But what is not included in the FAFSA application is your primary home is not included, life insurance, airborne accounts, your retirement plan, your pension plan, all right, annuities. So those are the things that are not included. So you can see, you have to understand is how they do the calculation is very important, so that we include that into our strategy, how to help you to qualify for more needs-based aid. Make sense? The other thing is, you may have heard about this, is the CSS profile. So what it is the private colleges utilize the College Scholarship Service profile. So this is a separate profile from the FAFSA, and it costs a fee to do this for every school you send to. So for those of you who are thinking about private colleges, they require this, okay? And now, the CAS profile requires a different information, financial information. FAFSA does not require your retirement or your annuities, but in CSS profile, they do look into your retirement plans, annuity, and your home equities. But in your FAFSA, your home equity, your primary home residence is not required. So you can see it's a different way. So the amount of aid you're going to get is a bit different for each situation between a FAFSA and the CSS. All right. So now with the FAFSA and the CSS, you write down the key thing is what? It is number one, it is income dependent. Number two, it is what? It is asset dependent on what kind of assets you have. And I will explain to you what it is. So now with this in place, you have the, estimated cost of attendance, right? And then you have the, estimated family contribution. Let's look at what are the strategy for different situation. So cost of attendance is basically you have to consider in terms of whether you are going to have your kids go on a 2-year, and that's mean a community college approach, and then you transfer to a 4-year college. That's one way, or otherwise you go straight from a 4-year, from a public school to a 4-year college. Obviously, that's what Vinny and UCEZ is talking about. Make sure you have the SAT or ACT, and that may be going away. What kind of curriculum, what kind of activities you need. So if you go straight from a high school to a 4-year, it's very intensive. But for my own 2 daughters, I can speak for them, is they have chosen to go to the community college right here in Cupertino. It is very simple. And for me, I like it. Is why. Number one, is the state of California has this program called California College Promise. So my kids attend the first 2 years of community college for free. This is for the whole state of California. Depending on your income, if your income is higher, so they have 3 categories. At least you need to file your FAFSA so you can get your California College Promise, and they pay for 2 years free. Now, why is that important is because it's for some kids that don't know what major to study and things like that, I would suggest to the family, the parents to consider to let them jail out and go to the community college and figure out what major they want to do. If they already know what they want to study, that's a different story. Just go straight to a 4-year, that would be perfect. So what I'm trying to say is basically is parents need to be a bit more pragmatic or practical. But if you are the kind of what I call the tiger mom or dad, and you strictly want them to go to the top tier school straight from high school, yes, it's possible. But for some parents, if you have a more alternative, a 2-year and a 4-year approach may be more flexible and less stress on you as a parent and on the kid as a student. Make sense? That's all. Now, the other thing is on the private or the public. In the study that I've been attended, is after the financial aid from the private school, the cost of attendance can be rival the public school. So don't rule out going to private school because they do offer a lot of financial aid. In-state versus out-state, that is another choice that the parents and students. Now the more important thing is you have to pay attention to your kids, your child, your student. You have to look at them. are they the one that are extrovert or the introvert? If they're the extrovert, public school is great because big, student population, they won't get lost. But if they are somewhat introvert, we should probably consider narrow them down to the more ratio that is smaller between the instructor and the student, lower ratio, right? So they don't get lost in translation. And then depending on what kind of degree they want to pursue. So that is part of the cost of attendance. So those are the factors. The estimated family contribution, if you are on the W-2, we cannot do too much except for you to contribute more into your retirement plan to bring down your taxable income. But if you are 1099, we have a lot of good solutions, more solutions to work with. And the last thing here on the estimated financial contribution, the other thing is we look at how to move your assets around. And I'll talk something about the tax bucket, how to move the things around. So that way, when you report on the FAFSA, it has less impact on the outcome. Make sense? And then the saving vehicles, it can be, again, I talk about tax bucket right here, the taxable, the tax deferred, tax exempt, and what are the financial impact for each strategy. Now, the way I'm going to bring you guys to this thing right here is everybody has a different level of income, different level of asset. So every category, I'm going to use this one right here. As you can see, I can divide that into 4 possibilities. Low asset, low income, or asset, high asset, low income, or high income. So what are the strategies? So this, you have to be able to, if you fit into one of this, then the strategy is a bit different. So if some families fit into the low income and the low asset, it's easy to qualify based on the need-based aid. On the FAFSA, they're most likely going to get a lot of financial aid. But if they have a high asset, especially we're talking about rental income, investment property, especially in those things right there, we have to look at how to do an asset realignment, okay? Then the third category is, I have a low asset, but I have a high income. So then we talk about retirement contribution and possible asset realignment. And then the toughest one is the fourth quadrant right here, high income, high asset. Then we have to look at different ways to contribute to the retirement plan, asset retirement, or even tax strategies. All right, I hope you guys are still with me. I'm going to go through this very fast. Now, for you, those of you parents who are, one of you are on 1099 or business owner, let me share 2 slides with you and share with you what it contrasts, what's the difference, and how to use the tax saving strategy to pay for your kids' college funding. So let's assume that the net income for this business owner or your 1099 is 300,000. So if we take the top 100,000 net income, right, the top 100, that is at the federal tax level for a married couple filing jointly, that would be at the federal would be about 24%. So if you pay tax on that top 100,000, we're not talking about the bottom 200 yet. We're talking about the top $100,000 here. Then it's about 24% on that 100,000. So then if you pay tax on that, it means that you will have only left with $76,000. Assume the college annual cost is $24,000, then your potential savings for retirement with after tax money is how much? It's a $52,000. Does that make sense? So there's one possible avenue. But the other way, if you use a tax strategy, if you look at this thing right here is, if it's possible to potentially contribute to a retirement plan and you're able to put away $100,000, then the tax saving on that $100,000 at 24% will be $24,000. Instead of saving that money to Uncle Sam, then you use that tax saving to pay for your college expenses. Let's assume it's $24,000. So that is one way how we can work with business owner, or if you're independent contractor, that's how we can do it. And then, but the upside here is, guess what? You contribute $100,000 into your retirement savings. But if you calculate the numbers, the actual net flow is still 76,000. Okay, so just want to give you a different idea of different thinking from the tax perspective. Now, the tax bucket right here. So I'm going to share with you, no matter what you do, what level of income you are, in the lower, in the middle, or in the higher end, all of you would get to benefit from this strategy. So if you file a tax return every year, you would be only managing your tax liability in the current tax year, but you are not managing your tax liability going forward. Make sense? So what we do here is to educate you is what are the strategies available in a simple form without telling you this account or that account. But I want you guys to just zoom in, thinking that like the bucket, at home, you have 3 different buckets, and what are those? So the first tax bucket you remember is called the taxable. What is taxable? It's like your saving account, your mutual fund, your stock, and your bonds. So you get taxed every year if there is any gain or distribution, and you contribute your money with your paycheck after tax. Now, what is the next tax bucket? It's called the tax deferred. So this is your RA, simple RA, SEP RA, your 401k, 403b, 457, your pension, and your annuities. So what this is when you contribute this money, when you contribute this is before tax. Unlike your taxable is after tax. So this is before tax. So you have a deduction on this thing right here. While you grow the money, there's no tax involved. But however, when you take it out, then it's taxable. Make sense? So this is your tax deferred bucket. The last bucket here is your tax exempt bucket. So what this is you going to contribute your money into this bucket with after tax money, something like your taxable. But when you grow the money, there is no taxable event, right? And when you take it out, voila, no taxable income, right? So now, am I saying that to put all your money into the last bucket? No, the question here is what we call it is look at asset realignment. Find out which strategy would be most suitable for you and your family, even for the college funding option, all right? So what is in the tax exempt? Roth RA, Roth 401k, 403b, municipal bond. You see 529 is in there, even the Coverdell education IRA is part of it. I didn't write it down. And the last one is the cash value life insurance program. So those are the three buckets. You just remember how you're going to use it later on. So the next question here is, for each vehicle that I just explained to you, is there a timeline when I need to contribute into each vehicle? And I have lined this thing out, a summary, and most of it doesn't matter how old your kids are, you can contribute. But the question here is, does it affect your FAFSA calculation or your financial aid impact? Okay, so I have a summary table here for which vehicle. So the first one, the 529 plan, Coverdell, any age before starting college is fine. Once the baby is born, you can start contributing. 5 years before it, 2 years before it, 10 years before it, up to you. Cash, if you're considering cash value life insurance, please make sure that you have at least 8 to 10 years before the kid starts colleges. Because if you have 5 years, this is not a good solution, all right? So just pay attention, because some advisor may put you in that situation that may not be optimal for you. The next one is the stock, mutual fund, bonds, ETF. Anytime you need to, RA, SEP RA, 401k, anytime. Annuities is something probably you not heard about it. Annuities is like something you put after tax money, that you do a tax deferral. So it also helps you in your, if you remember in my slide on FAFSA, if you have money in annuities, that does not count towards the estimated financial contribution on your FAFSA application. But be careful on this thing right here is you need to make sure you have at least 3 to 7 years before the kids get to go to school, because that is the contractual plan. That's how much time they need to have before your money become liquid. So that is the two things right here you pay attention. Obviously, the universally account, the bank account, which doesn't make a lot of money, but is always favorite with a lot of family. But there is something that you can put money in there, right? Even though it does not pay a lot of interest lately. So what are the tax implications and penalties for each of this vehicle here? And I don't think too many advisors are looking from this angle. And I'm going to share with you what are the implications from the tax perspective and from the penalties, what are the limitations. So I give you what are the pros and cons of each strategy, so you can decide which one will make more sense for you, right? I apologize, this is a bit small. You can email me if you want to, or we can set our time. So the first one is you can consider using your 401k, use the loan provision. So what is the limitation here? You are allowed only to use 50% of your balance up to how much? 50,000. So a loan from a 401k does not trigger any income tax, but you have to repay. There's no capital gain tax. The typical interest charge on that plan can be anywhere from 0 to 5%. So you have to ask your HR or the 401k company and ask them what is the prevailing rate. So the maximum period that you can repay that program here is what? 5 years, and you can prepay early to pay it off, all right? But however, you do not want to use a thing called withdrawal if you are earlier than 59 and a half, because if you use a withdrawal, that means there is a 10% penalty, and that amount that you withdraw is subject to income tax. If you pay attention to my income tax right here, you look at this thing right here, the starting rate for income tax is what? 10%, and then goes to 12%, 22, 24, 32, 35, and 37%. That is the federal income tax table. The California income tax table goes from 1 all the way to 13%. So if you look at this thing right here, if there is any income tax that you have to pay, is it more than your credit card interest they charge you? So income tax is a very expensive proposition. So, but if you can pay between 10 to 12%, it's okay. But once you hit that income level of 22%, you just ask yourself, when was the last time you paid 22% on your 22% on your credit card? Because I know you guys do shop around for the lowest interest on credit card. You pay off everything. But when you come to income tax, you have no way around it, is you have to pay for the tax. So I just want to make sure is that's the reason why Warren Buffett keeps his investment, everything into the capital gain tax bracket right here, because it is the maximum is 20%. Make sense? But income tax is this. So I educate you about income tax right here. Roth IRA, if you have Roth IRA or Roth 401k, the principal, the money that you put in, you can take it out anytime you want. Okay, no tax because that's after tax money. But on the IRA, if you take the gain out before you are 59 and a half, and if your account is less than 5 years holding period, then it's subject to what? 10% penalty and income tax. Again, 10% plus whatever income tax level you are at, right? However, it's not included in the FAFSA. IRA, you have to pay tax, but the 10% penalty is waived for the first $10,000, it is qualified college expenses. It's not included in the FAFSA. The life insurance, what you can do here is there's no tax implication, no capital gain. But however, if you borrow your money from your cash value, there's quote unquote the saving part of it, the typical net cost is between 0 and 2. Now, the downside of this thing is if you overdrawn the cash value, if the policy lapse, the cash value may be subject to income tax for cash value above the cost basis, right? If you contribute 50,000 and your total cash value is 100,000, then the $50,000 is taxable, not the 50 amount that you contribute. This one is more versatile and is not necessarily meant for what? College funding. If the kid don't go to school, the money belongs to you. Not included in the FAFSA mutual fund. You just have to pay attention. If you hold less than 12 months, the gain is taxable at the income tax level. But if you more than 12 months, then you don't pay income tax, but you pay capital gain tax. It's included in the FAFSA. Annuities is taxable only on the gain, okay? No capital gain, but if you take the money out before 59.5, there is a 10% penalty plus the income tax for the gain, not the principal. It's included in the CSS profile, but not in the FAFSA. 529, the good news is no tax involved if it's used for college, for qualified college expenses. But if it's not qualified college expenses, the gain, not the principal, the amount that you put in, the gain is subject to a 10% penalty plus income tax, okay? It's included in the FAFSA CSS. The investment in this case is somewhat tricky because you can only move the investment choices once a year. Otherwise, it's a taxable event. The good news is if the first kid is the first beneficiary on the account, if there's money left over, you can always change the beneficiary to your next kid, your cousin, and including yourself if you have excess money. But if you cannot use that money and you want to bring it back to yourself, the gain again is subject to what? The gain is subject to 10% penalty plus income tax if it comes back to you. So you may consider going for your master or PhD, right? And the last thing is the HELOC, the home equity line of credit. It's not a taxable event. With the low interest rate, it may be appealing, but the downside is the tax is not tax deductible because of the new tax law, right? So what is the thing you pay attention? For a HELOC, you are subject to your income verification, debt level, and your FICO score. So not everybody qualified, and it's not included in the FAFSA. So I just want to make sure that there are many options right here. I'm going through very fast because I'm given a very tight timeline right here. All right. In summary, you should consider have a team of college planner for your kid and a financial advisor to guide you and your child. Make sense? You need to have a team. Learn the basics of handling college and college funding. So our company do offer college funding, just not me. My company offer that. If you are interested, you can always send me your name and your email to me that I will invite you to the next seminar I have that is through our company on a webinar basis, all right? Now, if some of you are interested to have a complimentary personal financial strategy to find out, have either a second opinion or have a review of what you're trying to do, you can reach out to me. Below is my contact information. So just for information, if you are watching this from our state of California, don't worry, we are licensed to do businesses in multi-states. For my business, I'm not the only one in the office. I'm supported by a team of financial professionals. So you won't get only one person in my office, but a team of financial professional. My contact info again, my name is again who? Albert Law. That's my number, and this is my email, and that's my website. All right, you can. I'll leave it up for a minute so you can. I'll take a picture of this. You can look me up, email me or call me. Again, we can set up a complimentary review. And lastly, again, this is my website. You can get hold of me right here. And my office is in Santa Clara, but because of COVID-19, I do the meetings virtually right now. So that's all I have. If you have any question, I'll be more than happy to take those if I can answer them. If I don't, I'll research that and get back to you if you allow me to do that, if you give me your email address. So Saravana, like I promised you, I just want to be mindful of the time you allocated to me. And I think I finished maybe 1 or 2 minutes ahead on my schedule, I think.
So this is perfect. Thank you, Albert. We do have at least one. Oh, there are 2 questions. Attendees, please feel free to ask questions. We do have some time to answer. So the first question is 529, does 529 really help? And does FOPSA, I think the thinking is that, or the concern is that, how will the 529 and FOPSA, reducing the scholarship?
Well, it all depends on if you look at the quadrant right there, the quadrant, the high income, high asset thing right there. It depends on how much asset you have in the FAFSA, because sometimes you can control your income, especially if you are a business owner, you can control your income. So the one way is to control the income that affect the FAFSA score. But if you're on W-2, you cannot control, right? So you cannot control as well. But the assets. But 529 is one particular assets only that you save. Hopefully you can have other vehicles that you can use to do that. But 529, it is what it is. But if you have to save, 529 is a good way. The question here is how much that I cannot answer. But if you are it depends on which quadrant you are on the asset and the income, because that is how FAFSA and CSS works. So I cannot tell you per se, I don't have a number, because in reality, unless you go through it, then it affects it, okay?
So the other question is, if you take a 529 for one kid, can it be, I think you answered it partially there, but you can again emphasize, can it be transferred to another person or used for another person?
Yes. As long as in immediate family, your second child, third child, or your niece and nephews, and including yourself, okay? You can name yourself as a beneficiary and you can go back to school. But at the end of the road, if you have no other beneficiary and you want the money come back to you as being the owner, then the gain in the account, not the principal, the gain in the account is subject to a penalty of 10% and income tax. Just pay attention to that one. And 529 is meant for what? College funding. If you use it anything else for that, then it is not conducive. But if you have the time, the life insurance is a possibility if you have enough time. But if you don't have enough time, don't consider that. Make sense? All right?
So in terms of 529, I mean, if you do it in California, can you go to outside state? And
yes.
Vice versa?
Yes, there are many states offer them. The contribution limit is different. Certain state, like the state of California, if you contribute to the California, which is run by TIA Craft, you only go direct. You can use that program, and then you can use that to pay for our state, no issue. Or you use another state, 529, and you can pay for your institution, no issue.
And the other question is, how does FAFSA treat the immigrant students who are in H4, or parents are in H4, I guess, or the kids are in H4?
H4 FAFSA, no. If they, I think they may be considered as a foreign student. I don't know. You have to ask UC Easy. If you are considered as a foreign student, you know, FAFSA is only good for resident in this country. I think. I may be wrong, but you can ask them because I'm not very experienced in that FAFSA. I only deal with people who are resident in this country. But if they are on a foreign working visa, they may be on a different track altogether. But if they qualify for in-state, then it's great. Then you can file for it. But otherwise, the college counselor would be at a better place to answer that. I apologize for not able to answer you on that.
But I think they can also reach out to the high school college counselor. There is a college counselor in each high school, and
Yes.
you should be able to approach them, and they can at least point you to the right direction.
Yes, yes, they should be able to because they deal with a lot of immigrant students, especially in this state right here.
I think there were 2 questions related to that. It's like H4 students and citizens, how they are looked at for funding purposes. Oh, regarding 529, if funds are not used fully, what would be the implication to the funds? I mean, the remaining funds. How to
like I said earlier on,
penalty?
If the funds are refunded to the owner, the parents, so the way they look at it is how much is your principal amount, how much is your gain. Your principal will come back to you with no tax liability. The gain in the account will always come back to you with what? 2 things, a penalty of 10% and what? And income tax on the gain only. Okay.
So this is a little deeper question. In terms of, if the strategy is to reduce the EFC and try for more need-based aid, will it not diminish the chance of the kid getting into or getting selected for the university?
Well, you have to strike a balance. I cannot tell you, yes, you are correct. If you go to in-state like the UC, it is highly competitive. But if you go out of state, you probably have a richer picking. Makes sense? Because they want diversity. They want a lot. But over here, I'm being a parent here. I know how it is all the parents here in Cupertino, especially in Cupertino and Sunnyvale, all they want to go to UC and nothing but the UC. So there's a lot of competition for that limited space. And it is sad sometimes to see that the student themselves get a bit depressed and the parents get depressed. You get a whole household people get depressed, but that's not the end of the world. For me is one of the things is obviously the parents and the student are the ones that decide. But if I talk to a parents that are a bit more open, a bit more to strategy in terms of saving for college, the strategy of going to a community college will save you 50% already of the college costs because you only go to 2 years for a 4-year degree, 4-year college. So that is something that parents need to be a bit practical. But if the parents are very, they want to make sure their kids go to a 4-year, straight to a 4-year of their choice, obviously, you have to work with what numbers you have given. Make sense? So hopefully with this what you learn is basically is you don't have to pay the full price. Hopefully you pay a discounted price. That's the whole idea in the overall scheme of things. And then your kids still go to the school that you want and they want. Make sense? So for me as a financial advisor, I work from a holistic approach to give them ideas. So then you work with your you work with your college counselor. So the two of us can give you the best pragmatic approach and it's still the win-win situation for you. Make sense? So my thing is I'm not dogmatic in my approach. I am very practical, understanding what the parents are trying to do. So that is a key thing right here because certain parents are very fixed on certain situations. So I'm not going to challenge that. I'm going to work with them to the best of my ability from a college funding perspective and then from the college counselor. Make sense?
So now the next question is related to the 529 again. One is, if the parents are high income, does it even matter? Having 529, does it even matter?
Yeah, that is actually is one of the best solution. Other than 529, the next best thing is, if they have the time, like I show on the timeline schedule, there is the life insurance is the next best thing because 529, if you use it properly, no tax at all.
Okay. So the other one related is on 529. Can it be used for international countries' college education, or basically, learning abroad? Can that be used?
Like I said, yes, if they are enrolled here, they go for study abroad. Is that what they meant? If they study abroad here, like I said on my slide, reasonable cost. So they cannot go glamorous overseas study, right? You know what I mean, right? It must be reasonable cost. So that has been approved by the college they're attending. So everything that we do here or you do here, RS is very tight on those things right here. Is everything, the keyword here is what? Reasonable cost, right? Otherwise you get audited. That's all it is. If you can prove it is reasonable, then it's okay. But I leave that to your tax advisor.
So I think this is the last question we have.
Yes.
How do we value the out of country real estate legacy properties? Do we have to mention?
That one is legacy. Did you say legacy?
Yeah. I think it's inheritance, I guess.
This is probably nothing to do with the college funding. That one is a bit more complicated because we are dealing with overseas, and that is something that I have to work with CPA that has overseas experience. Because if you are a U.S. citizen with U.S. citizen or U.S. permanent resident, you are required to recognize all income and assets globally. So that is something more complicated, but that is something that you need to ask your CPA and to handle that for you, or a tax advisor that has a legal background, because that is very complicated. There is no clear-cut solution because my wife, Tiffany, works on that with a lot of her Indian clients. They do have assets overseas. So that is something that I'll be more than happy to refer you to my wife, Tiffany, that she works with those kind of situations, or any of your qualified CPA or tax advisor that is with overseas.
So that was our last question.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you very much for this valuable, very informative session, Albert. And to the audience, we are on YouTube. So if you want to check on anything to refresh your memory, you can go back and check the slides. So with that, Juliet and Meena, do you want to come on? I think we are wrapping up.
Your audio is off.
Oh, Meena, your audio is off.
Thank you very much for your wonderful session on the financial part as well, because we thought of covering both the college planning as well as the financial part. And I hope a few of the audience are benefited by this session as well. And thank you very much for those who have joined today. It was our thought, because of the pandemic, there were so many questions coming around for the EC members itself, asking for one more session, and that is why we had the college planning session, fall session. Hope it helped you, and those who had joined little bit late, do not worry. I have shared the YouTube link in our chat section. You can just copy paste it and then look for the details that you're looking for. Thank you very much. And Julie.
Right. Thank you very much. You guys stay safe and have a good time. Celebrate the end of the year and ushering in the new year. And hopefully 2021 will bring you abundant wealth and health to all of you. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. Good night.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you very much.
I'm sure everyone has benefited from this college webinar. Thank you, Albert, for your time and support the community. I would like to thank you all on behalf of San Francisco Bay Area Tamil Mandram for 2020. Sundra, any words?
We will just wish all of our participants a safe and peaceful holiday time. And if you have any questions, I think if it is general, probably you can reach out to us. But if it is specific to the firms that presented here, and you will be able to find their contacts on the YouTube link. So with that, thank you again for joining us, and hope you learned, and this is a useful session for all of you.
நீங்கள் அனைவரும் பார்த்து கொண்டிருப்பது 2020 சான் பிரான்சிஸ்கோ வளைகுடா பகுதி தமிழ் மன்றம் வழங்கி கொண்டிருந்த காலேஜ் பிளானிங் from UCEC. நன்றி மிஸ்டர் வின்னி அண்ட் மிஸ்டர் வைத்திஸ். தமிழ் மன்றத்தின் புரவலர்களா நீங்க தொடர்ந்து வருவதற்கு மிகவும் நன்றி. தமிழ் மன்றம் சார்பாக நிறைய அன்பையும் வாழ்த்துக்களையும்.
And one more last words. In the session is fully வந்து உங்களோட அவேர்னஸ்க்காகவும் உங்களோட ஒரு டவுட்ஸ் வந்து கிளியர் பண்ணிக்கிறதுக்கும். ஸோ ப்ளீஸ் ஃபீல் ஃப்ரீ டு டூ மோர் ரிசர்ச் இன் திஸ் and then get into any thing that you really want to explore. கண்டிப்பா நிறைய ரிசர்ச் பண்ணிட்டு அப்புறமா நீங்க வந்து அதை பயன்படுத்திக்கணும்னு கேட்டுக்கொள்றேன். நன்றி.
மீனா ரொம்ப நல்லா சொன்னாங்க. நான் வந்து இப்போ ரீசெண்டா, பிகாஸ் என்னோட பொண்ணு வந்து ஃபர்ஸ்ட் இயர் காலேஜ் இருக்கா, அதனால சொல்றேன் நானு. இன்னும் எல்லா ஸ்கூல்லயும் ஒரு காலேஜ் பிளானிங் கவுன்சிலர்ஸ் இருக்காங்க. தட் கேன் பி யுவர் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஸ்டெப். So check with them, and of course they may not be able to answer all of your questions as an immigrant parent. We may have more questions, but நீங்க அங்க ஆரம்பிங்க. அங்கிருந்து மீனா சொன்ன மாதிரி நிறைய ரிசோர்சஸும் இருக்கு. செக் பண்ணிட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் அடுத்த ஸ்டெப் என்னன்னு நீங்க முடிவு பண்ணுங்க. நன்றி.
ஆராய்ந்து செயல்படணும்னு நாங்க சான் பிரான்சிஸ்கோ வளைகுடா பகுதி தமிழ் மன்றம் சார்பாக கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறோம். தமிழால் இணைவோம், ஆள்பால் தலைப்போம், நன்றே செய்வோம், அதை இன்றே செய்வோம். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
வணக்கம்.